Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Billings. Welcome to our webinar this evening. We have a special treat this evening. Mr. Tim Sales is going to be our presenter. Mr. Sales is the most recognized leader in the network marketing industry. He's made a big difference in a lot of people's lives as they succeed in this industry. One of my favorite quotes that I've heard from Tim is that he says, "There is nothing on planet Earth from preventing you from making millions of dollars in this industry except for training." So I'm excited to introduce Tim this evening. Sit back, open your minds to receive the knowledge he'll be sharing with us. Tim, you can take it.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Rick. And I greatly appreciate your leadership as well, hosting this call and all. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning for those of you calling in from Australia and so forth. What I want to do is to just basically walk you through a business option that I personally feel is a very, very good one. And the name of the company is called ARIIX. I want to step back just a minute or so and tell you a little bit about my past. As you can see on the screen there, I had a really boring life in the U.S. Navy Underwater Bomb Squad team. The picture on the left there, I'm in the Persian Gulf, and there's a big mine behind me, and I didn't say mind as in a smart guy. I'm talking about one of those things that can blow a ship out of the water. We're pulling that behind us, and it's several hundred yards behind us, just in case it blows up. We might be able to escape some of it. On the right there, I'm with my good buddy. His name is Gary, and if you look up in the background of that, that's a Navy ship. So I was stationed on board a Navy ship. It was the USS Missouri, and they would fly out a professor when you were on a cruise that lasted longer than 6 months. And the professor would come on board, and we could take night classes. And I was an eager person to learn, and so I took a night course, and it was on personal finance. This gentleman said something that forever changed my life, literally. We're going through personal finance, and we talked about savings, and we talked about real estate, we talked about compound interest, we talked about these kinds of things, and we learned about them, we tested on them, and things like that. And in passing, one evening, that gentleman said, "Just keep in mind, to make good money, you either have to own it or sell it." That phrase right there, it changed my life. Probably about 8 months after that, I got transferred to a place on the East Coast called Indian Head, Maryland, where I taught how to defuse bombs to others. And it was while I was there that I wanted to buy a piece of real estate. And so I went out and I put offers on houses that were 20% less than market value. And I put, I don't know, 10 or 15 or so out there, and Mr. Sonny Higgins, my real estate agent, called me that day, and he says, "Tim, we're on one caught." And I said, "Really?" And I jumped in my truck and I drove over to the real estate agent's office, and he figured out this and that, and he crunched the numbers, as he called it. And then he slid the numbers over to me, and he says, "Any problem coming up with that when we go to settlement?" And I looked at that number, and I lied, because I said, "No problem at all, sir." Because at that time, I knew exactly what I had in my bank account, and I knew that if I didn't drive my truck and I didn't eat for 3 months in time to go to settlement, that I could make it, but I would only have a few dollars left over. And so I swung into 7-Eleven, I grabbed a newspaper, and I circled a bunch of ads, and one of those ads was a network marketing business. And I worked it really, really hard for 5 years. I made many millions of dollars since then. I'm still receiving a check from them, and I really haven't done anything for 18 years with that organization. In the meantime, I didn't just retire. I did for a little while. I did for maybe a year or two, and got really, really bored. It's not as fun as it's mocked up to be. especially when you're a really active guy, like a bomb squad kind of a guy, a skydiving kind of guy. I like a lot of activity and things like that. And so I began to look at franchises. I looked at various different businesses that I could do in a passive kind of a way. And I remember sitting by my pool. I was living in Woodland Hills, California at the time, and I just thought, there is no way that I can look at any other business other than network marketing, because number one, I know it, and number two is that it is the most logical business in the world. And so I began to help the whole industry. I became the industry's ambassador. I was a consultant for a couple of hundred network marketing companies, and many, many, many leaders that I would go in and I would train their teams for them, and really, really loved being an ambassador to the industry. One of the things that I did as an ambassador is that I got the legendary Larry King to interview me on stage, and we talked about pyramid schemes, we talked about Ponzi schemes, and we talked about multi-level marketing and the lines that differentiate those three things. Because sometimes this industry, in an analogy or a kind of a way, they'll kind of cross them all together, and they are very different. And so we went through that process, and it was an honor to be interviewed by that man. And so while I was consulting with a network marketing company at the time, I was kind of on the inside track of a group of corporate gentlemen who were leaving. They had built a $500 million debt-free company, and they were leaving to start a new company. They talked to me and asked me if I would join them. And after much due diligence, I said yes. And then I joined ARIIX. And so that's my story and how I came into this. And I hope you gathered from that I do know what I'm talking about. I do know what to look for in a business, because there's not many people in the industry who will have built a business up to millions of dollars, left it, and still earning the check 20 years later, 23 years later. And so number one, I know how to pick a company. Number two, I know how to build. And so therefore, I hope that you can recognize the difference between a hype call and a knowledgeable call. And a lot of times I've been on the stages of companies, and I've heard the way that they present and stuff. And what I like to say is the truth is good enough for me. And I like to just deliver it to you in respect for your ability to evaluate a business. And that's what I really am going to do here, is I'm going to basically present it very truthfully, very factual, and hopefully you can see it the way that I do. Now, anytime that you look at a business, you have to always compare it to what other options that you have, right? It's called relative importance. And so you can't just say that's a good business, because you have to do relative to something else that is of an equal magnitude. And so under the concept of you either have to sell it or you have to own it. And that was that professor's statement to me. And so if you're going to sell it, you basically you can work for someone else under a commission only or a salary plus commission. You can get a real estate license and start selling. You can get an insurance license and start selling. And so that's really what your options are over there. Now, I will warn you what my experience has been over up in the work for someone else section. If you're really, 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 really good, you would think that they would be very impressed with that and give you more and more finance. But my experience has been is that they will cut territories, they will reduce salary, and then reduce commissions, and they'll keep jockeying with those numbers, because what you can't ever do is make much more money than your manager, your vice president, or your president. And so you'll become frustrated at some point in time, and feel like that you want to go somewhere where you're wanted. And I've seen it many, many times. Many people have joined me in business because of that very fact. Over on the right-hand side of your screen there, under the Own It, your options are, if you want to become a professional, you can become a doctor, an accountant, an attorney, or something like that. And then basically you're getting a student loan, or if you have a rich grandparents or parents, then maybe you can do that on your own. But then you basically build a business around you. 100% of the business is dependent upon you, and when you go to try to sell it, there's oftentimes a lot of difficulty. You know, let's just say you're a dentist, and you've been working in people's mouths for many, many years, and they've become accustomed to you. They're comfortable with you. And so when you go to try to sell that business, there's going to be a drop. And so you can sell it, but oftentimes it's a difficult one. And you really can't take a break too often, because every time you do, you're not making any money while you take that break. The other kind of business is your typical traditional business where you go out and get a loan if you can, and that has become quite difficult if you haven't recognized that. And so then you go out and you learn the business, right? Just like everybody else has out there that have started their own business. And the difficulty that I have found there is that anybody who is really good in your business is actually your competitor, so to speak. And so there's a training element that comes in with, and one of the reasons that I like network marketing so well is because of the training element, where you're going to have 3 or 4, 5 levels of people who have a financial interest in your success. And that is to not be taken for granted. It really is not. I can't overemphasize that. Whatever it is that you do, when you have layers of people who have a genuine financial interest, then they can train you, they can teach you, they can hold your hands in the times that you need it, they can be there to kick you in the butt when you need it, and sometimes have a shoulder to cry on sometimes. And if you haven't figured this out, I'm not one of those people who just talk about how rosy everything is, because it wasn't rosy for me. I worked my guts out. What I'm going to tell you is that it's very, very worth it, though. The other kind of business is a franchise, and there you have the franchise fee, and normally that is very much a barrier that's very difficult to overcome. You know, from your small size ones, Molly Maids, if you want to clean houses, $50,000, all the way up to 900, 100,000, $1 million or something like that for a McDonald's franchise or something. And there, what your benefit is that you do get the training, okay? Because the franchisor will help you, and they will train you in the business, and there's a proven model there. And so it's very good. What I dislike, and the reason that I never pulled the trigger back when I was sitting by my pool evaluating franchises, because I had plenty of money, I could have bought any of them, but the difficulty for me is that you are geographically limited. So if you want to just go on to Google Maps and draw a 15-minute out circle from wherever your franchise is, that is basically your market. How many people is going to come to you? Now, you'll have your occasional guy driving through the area, but by and large, you're limited geographically, and I hate that. I was looking at the time, or a little bit later on, I was looking at buying a franchise on the beach, and about that time, there was a spill by BP Oil out in the Gulf, and it wasn't a few weeks after that, and there was big blobs of tar rolling up onto the sandy white beaches of Clearwater, Florida. Tourism down by 50%. Well, what do you do if you have your franchise sitting there, right? So that's where I dislike franchising. It is one of the better business models, without a doubt. But because of the geographic location, it does not get number one for me. Otherwise, I would be doing it. Number one for me is network marketing, and I'll explain to you just very, very briefly about it. Over on the left-hand side there, you'll see a building, okay? And let's just call that the network marketing business. It is structured like every traditional business. You have your CEO, you have your president, you have your vice presidents, you have chief financial officers, you have your managers, you have your customer service, you have all of those things like a traditional business, all right? All of those things that are in that building are your resources. Okay, so you, as an individual, come along, you're an entrepreneur, you have an idea that you want to own your own business, and they, meaning the network marketing company, have resources. And those resources you get to use to help build your business. Now, what kind of resources am I talking about? Well, they have products. They have the leadership know-how to open new countries. They have customer service. They do the packaging and shipping of products. They go out and they, with their clout, in other words, when you're a $30 million company or something like that, you've got a little bit more clout when you go in and try to cut a joint venture with somebody to do business with. And so you can you get to utilize that resource because the company is going and negotiating on your behalf. And so all of those resources are available to you to help you build your own business. Okay, so what does that leave you to do? The picture that you see there, the one in the middle, there's a gentleman by the name of that's got a gray suit on there. And what he does is that he goes out and he gets customers. And so the people on the inside of that same circle, those are his customers. But what he can also do is that he can recruit or invite. It's no different than if you were to look at it from a human resources division in a company, and what they do is that they hire, they interview, and bring on people as employees to a company. And in the same similar fashion is that how do human resources do it? They run ads in newspapers. The person might know somebody. One of the employees might refer somebody. In other words, however it is that a person comes in front of you, you basically invite them. And so the lady in the green dress there, she comes into the business, and then you train her how you got your 4 customers, and she gets her 4 customers, and then you'll also teach her how to hire or recruit somebody to come into the business and do the same thing. And it really isn't any more than that. It can get very, very complicated, and you can get very, very lost in a lot of things. But I want you to understand something, that's the fundamental. In every great thing that you can ever try to do, whether it be music or whether it be karate or any kind of thing in your life, there's always a fundamental steps, right? And so, if you're in karate, there's a certain, straight kick, a straight jab. There's just a standard that you have to know that one move over and over and over and over again. If you're playing the guitar, you have to know scales. Right? You have to know it and know it and know it and know it and know it. And in the same kind of a way, in this industry, it's just get customers and recruit people and train them how to get customers and then how to get others. And that's it. That's the basic, okay? Not any more complicated than that. So I've never said, ever, that the network marketing industry is perfect. And the reason that I say that is because I really genuinely believe that it's not. But it is the most perfect that I can find, and I've evaluated a lot of things. But I don't believe that there is a perfect industry. But when I compare all industries where you can make an above normal income or above average income, when I compare them all, network marketing wins. And that's why I'm here. Okay, so I want to tell you the bad parts, okay, the difficult parts. Number one is it is difficult to find an ethical company that's going to grow and last. I'll just tell you right now, it is difficult to do that. There are a lot of companies that start and go away. Everybody dreams in this industry, who knows the industry pretty well, of finding that company that ends up going long term and becomes the giant, and then you got in at the beginning. That's what everybody hopes to do. Now, there's nothing scammy about getting in at the beginning of something. The people who got in at the beginning of Apple or got in at the beginning of Microsoft, they did a lot better than the people who join now. The people who join now are employees. And the people who joined earlier, they handed stock out. And in the same kind of a way is that if you find one of these companies that does go long term and does grow, then you can do very, very well. All right, now, provided you work hard. And what you're looking for in that company is that you want products that are easy to sell. That way that when you go to get customers, it's easy to do that, or easier. You want a fair compensation, and you want them to open new countries. And the reason that you want them to open new countries, especially right now, is that I am a little bit scared of the current economic conditions that we have in our economy. I am very scared of the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. And I don't know if they're just planning on creating so many surplus dollars that the whole thing evaporates or what. But I want to be earning money out of every country that I can. That way, if something does happen to the dollar, or something more happen to the dollar, in the 70s the dollar was worth 98 cents or so. Today it's worth about 2 pennies. And so relative to back in the 70s. So I want to make sure that the company that I am with opens new countries for that reason. The other problem is finding a company that will provide real training. Now, almost all companies do training, but it's whether or not it's the training that actually can help a person. And I take responsibility for that one in this company. The next one is finding customers. Okay, so that's something that you have to do. And there's not a business in the world that you could ever join, or there's not a product that you can sell, any of them, that you don't have to get customers in. In other words, business equals getting customers. And so it doesn't matter what business you're in, you're going to have to get customers. And so I really shouldn't include that. However, that is one of the challenges of a business. And then there's finding other business builders. And the comparison to that is that if you're not finding business builders, then you're finding employees. Okay, so if you want to own your own business, you're going to have to hire employees. And here's what I hate about hiring employees. And for those people who are my employees that happen to get on this call, I apologize to you. However, what happens is that in this interview, they have this thing that they spend a few weeks on. It's called a resume. And they're telling me about how great they are. And I sit down with them, and I find out what they got paid in their last job. And now they're sitting in front of me, and so I know a relative basis of what I can pay that person to be employed. And then something that has driven every single employee of mine nuts when I ask them this is I say, do you want to work on a pure salary, or would you like commission plus salary? And right here is where I get to find out who they really are. Because I always offer them more commission than they could make as a salary. But if they're unwilling to go on commission, I almost always end the interview right there. And that's what I dislike about the employee mindset, is that as a business owner, you have to pay them while you are testing them. You have to find out whether or not you're going to make more money because of them, or you're going to lose money in that 2 to 3 months that you have to pay them. It might be $3,000 a month. It might be $5,000 a month that you're going to lose while you see whether or not they're going to produce or not. And I hate that. And so if you're going to have to get people, I would far rather get business builders than I would employees. Okay? And so that's how I basically come to the conclusion that there isn't anything better than network marketing. And that's not a hype thing to say. I just walked you through my entire thinking process there. And now let me get right down into the real core of this. Companies don't grow. People grow companies. If there is if there's something that you could put a star beside, it would be that phrase. It is something that is innate in Tim Sales. It's something that when I look at a scenario, whether it's a guy defusing a bomb, whether it is a guy planting a bomb, whatever it is, I never look at the thing sitting there. I look at the person who put it there. And that's why I make that statement. Companies don't grow, people grow companies. These people right here that are on your screen, they are the people that I followed into this company. The gentleman on the upper left-hand side is Dr. Fred Cooper. He's a genius. I don't say that lightly. He is literally a genius. The gentleman to the right of him is Mark Wilson. He is the heart. The man has spent many, many years in the field. He knows people. He cares about people. I've seen that man in behind doors cry because of what he saw in the field at his other company. And so he is the heart. He loves the distributors. He'll do anything in the world for them. That gal over on the right-hand side, her name is Deanna Latson. She's the Chief Product Officer. And I take great pride that I was the gentleman who found her and begged her to come to this company. And the reason being is that there aren't many people who have a unwavering passion. And what I mean by unwavering is that they will not sacrifice quality ever. And Tim Sales needs that to lead the charge. I have to know what I'm fighting for is worth fighting for. And I know with Deanna creating my products, I know I'll never apologize for a product. She will not bend, and I know it. And so she has the utmost integrity around products. And so I like her being there. The gentleman on the lower left is Riley Timmer. Somehow that guy has opened 10 countries for us inside of a year. All right? He's a stud, is all I got to say. Like, that's impossible. Nobody does that. And he's been able to do it. He knows logistics better than anyone. He knows the countries better than anyone in this industry. And it's an honor to have him. That skinny guy over on the right-hand side that you can just barely see other than the smile on his face is Jeff Yates. He is our Chief Financial Officer. He is a genius of an accountant. He has run, I think, 13 different publicly traded companies. And for a startup company to have that guy right there is unheard of in this industry. And so we have a Chief Financial Officer. And so when I tell you that companies don't build, people build companies, you're looking right there at who your resources are. So if you want to build your own business and utilize the resources of some other people, you're looking at them right there, okay? And that's the way that I evaluate it, because I know these guys have my back. I know they're opening countries. I know they're supporting the field. I know that every single thing is getting done back at the home office because they know how to do it. And so the company is technically a year old. But it's not a startup company because none of them are startup people. Normally when somebody starts a business in this industry or almost any industry, what you go in there and find is that everybody has the same last name or in-laws of one another. In other words, the dreamer basically hired his family. And that's not what happens here. Is that these people are specialists in their fields and they're the best at it. And so it's the A team that's building this thing. Speaking of, and by the way, our first year we ended off at 30 million, and I'll just tell you straight up, nobody does that. That's ridiculous growth. What you're looking at right there is the other side of the leadership equation. It is an honor to have every single one of those people right there on board. Now, these just happen to be people that I had quick access this afternoon to pictures of them. All right. There's a lot of other leaders, but this is also the A team. Duke Tupton up in the left-hand corner. Steve Schwartz, he lives down the street from me. He's a workout partner of mine and a great friend. Tony and Marcia Hughes, incredible leadership. They are the kings of the events that we do. Stefan Page there. He's the marketing guru on the internet. Lynn Allen Johnson, she's the sweetheart of the company. She is a grandma, and she's looking quite sexy there. She's lost a whole lot of weight, so she's incredible. Down the lower left-hand side is Ennis and Arlene. They live also up in Park City. And, of course, you got Rick Billings, the gentleman who introduced me, Donna Detweiler below her and him in California. None other than Robert G. Allen, and he's a well-known author. He's quite an influencer out there in the business world. Marlisa Hertz, the pretty lady there, she's a doctor, and she was instrumental in one of our clinical trials on our weight loss products. And she is probably the best I have ever heard at explaining and training products. She doesn't know it. She doesn't know she's that great. She's just one of those really honest people, but she is so educated in it, and she is so current in it that when she communicates, and she also has a story that if it doesn't make you cry, you've gone cold. Because, you know, like she went through a lot and then decided to go and get her PhD so that she could fix what had gone wrong, and she did. And so Dr. Ray Strand is on the right-hand side. He has run a family practice for over 30 years. He's that guy that is the old-time doctor that you always ask advice of, and he's also very current in his information, and so it's an honor to have him. So right there, I want you to look at that group of people, because every single one of them are on your team. And the reason that I say that is that if you get on any training calls, if you happen to attend any events so that you can learn more things, you're going to be hearing from these people. Okay, now normally in a traditional business, you can't get anybody that's really good at it to train you. And these guys do it all the time. And so that is a resource for you. I want to talk to you now about products and how we're coming out with products. If you'll look at this slide that I have in front of you, this is a typical mall, and this is very successful in business. And I want to tell you why it's successful. If you'll look at those black squares on the right-hand side, or rectangles, I guess technically, those are called the anchor tenants of any mall. And they are the ones that pay the majority of the real estate, and they are the ones that people come to, and they're the draw, if you will, for the customers. And while they go from Saks Fifth Avenue over to Nordstrom's, or from Nordstrom's to Saks Fifth Avenue, they walk past all of these other boutique shops. And so that's the way that you get in and you see those other places in the store. Okay, so you get the idea of the way that it's kind of set up. In my history in this industry, I have witnessed that you never saturate a product in this industry. You only saturate the name of the company. And so I talked to the company in the beginning stages, and I told them my idea, and that I made a recommendation that what we ought to do is that we ought to grow by brands. And what that means is that just like Yum Yum Brands owns many, many different restaurants, and Pepsi-Cola owns many, many different brands of drinks, restaurants, and things like that, that in the same kind of a way that ARIIX would have in essence, the identity of the mall, meaning it has all these brands on the inside of it. And so if you'll look at this next image here, that our anchor tenants in this industry, the two anchor tenants that you have to have are nutrition and skincare. And the reason being is because people use them every day. And so that's the reason why you want to have those two things. And not just Me Too products, they have to be extraordinary. And I have seen what's coming in our skincare line, and it will be extraordinary, I promise you. And the nutrition line is that now. One of the key points, well, I'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so once you have the anchor tenants, then you can have things like weight management. You can have things like Healthy Baby Academy. You can have things like water filtration. And these are more boutique, but you can build a gigantic business off of these boutiques. Okay, so nobody ever said that, California Pizza Kitchen isn't a big business, right? So you can build a big business. I do not mean to imply anything other than that. All right. So so we have right now 3 divisions really, brands that I feel as though that are extremely powerful, and I want to show those to you. The first one is our Nutrifii brand. It is, there's actually going to be 3 of them here. The Nutrifii brand, what makes it really, really unique, and you'd have to know a little bit about genetically modified organisms in order to really see the whole value. If you don't know what a genetically modified organism is, I recommend that you look it up. You can just Google GMO. And what it means is that there's a company called Monsanto. There's others now, but they were the ones that pioneered it. And they basically inject a bacteria into the DNA of a plant. And the whole idea there is that so that they can spray that plant with pesticides and it won't kill the plant. So if you have corn and you inject inside of the DNA of the corn seed and you inject a bacteria in there that is resistant to your Roundup spray, which is a pesticide, and so now your corn is resistant to pesticides. So you can spray the heck out of that corn and it won't kill the corn, but it will kill everything around it, all the weeds and such. And so that was the theory. And now the genetically modified organisms represent about 70% of all the foods that are out there on the counters, or on the shelves for us. And many people, many studies have backed this up, that it's one of the core reasons that there are so many food allergies, and some of the core problems that people are having these days is because of this. And so a supplement is made from a vegetable, right? And so if it was made with a genetically modified organism plant, then you're going to have high concentrations of GMO in your supplements. And so this is, we're one of the very few brands. In fact, if you go to Whole Foods or anything like that, they all got GMOs in them. And so I was very, very proud of Deanna for making this right. The next one is our water filtration, and I've spent a great amount of time, probably too much time, researching this, but I want you to study this slide that you got in front of you. Up at the top there, you see rain and snow pushes everything to water. And when I say everything, I do mean everything. All right, so on the left-hand side, all products that go to consumer's house. And so when you go to the grocery store and you fill up your basket, I want you to look at it. And I want you to look at it really, really hard and say, every single thing that I've got in this basket is going to end up in my drinking water. And then when you go up to the checkout counter and you see all of the other carts up there, I want you to look at every single person with a cart and say, every one of their things is going to end up in my drinking water. Look at the next one, workplace products. If you go to a workplace, all the upholstery, the chairs, the desks, the paper, every single thing in there is going to ultimately end up in water. Your medical facilities and public spaces, so your airports, everything that you see people throwing away, all the hazardous waste material that comes out of a hospital, everything. Okay, you get the idea? I don't want to gross you out, but I just want you to understand everything. The next one is agriculture, and so if whatever they feed those guys, that stuff exits, right? And so that exit is going to hit the ground. It's either going to wash into a stream or it's going to penetrate down and go into the aquifers, which is the underground water. And everything that from fertilizers to the pesticides, whatever they inject into those things, the hormones or whatever it is. And then industry itself, okay? So I've ignored the industry for a second, but I want you to recognize that if they're making energy and they're burning stuff, coal, then everything that's in the pipe that runs up into the air or they wash it out. Like there's a big dumping that went on in Pennsylvania where they were basically cooling the nuclear plant with water straight out of the river. And once they wash it up in there to cool everything and clean it all out, that water just washes right back out. And it was extremely radioactive. And there were 12 municipal water supply systems that ran down that river all the way into Philadelphia and then on into the Chesapeake Bay. And so 12 different water supply companies basically were sucking that nuclear waste up and delivering it to all the homes out there. And so they also they also dump it onto soil. Okay, so they'll take that stuff, and whenever you see that it's really, really toxic or something like that, they'll go and they'll dig a hole somewhere and they'll dump it. But if you don't understand the way the water, the hydro system works on our planet, is that where there is water, there is evaporation, and the evaporation is what turns into clouds, and the wind blows those clouds in different directions, and then it rains. And that rain pushes things that are, basically on the ground or in the ground down deeper in the ground, or it washes over the top of it and washes into a river stream. And so there isn't anything that doesn't end up in water somehow. And then, of course, every time you see big fog, or not fog, but smog, and then it rains, and the air smells great again. That's great, except for one fact: you're now drinking it, because all the pollution that is in the air is the water molecules grab them and take them down to the ground. And when they land on the ground, if it lands on asphalt, then it just runs right straight across, picking up all the tire rubber, all of the oils, the windshield wiper cleaner that you sprayed. Every single thing ends up running into a drain, running into a ditch, running into a stream that runs into a river, that runs into a reservoir that gets sucked up. Now, immediately you're going to think, but Tim, wait a minute. That's going through a water treatment center. Yeah, and what they do there is that they hit it with chlorine to get the bacteria out of it. So back up there in agriculture, and also whenever people, your next door neighbor, poop into their toilet and flush the commode, it is to kill the bacteria in that, and they hit it with chlorine, and sometimes they hit it with ammonia. And so it's chemically treated. Now we've got that chemical running into there. If I haven't disgusted you already, then you haven't been listening closely. Yes, this is a sad, sad state of affairs. We've had this water for millions of years. The dinosaur drank this water. It's the same stuff, right? It just gets recycled over and over and over again. But what we're not able to handle is the onslaught of the chemicals. Mother Nature did not plan on pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fertilizers, fluoride, all this stuff. Mother Nature did not design to clean that out. We can't reduce that down very much. And so we've got very contaminated water is what I'm trying to tell you. All right? And so if you look at this slide that's in front of you, everything that I just said are in those words right there. And so you may think, well, I'm going to drink bottled water, but I assure you, all water comes from the same place, okay? Doesn't matter if you put it in the tap or you put it in a bottle, water itself is bad. And so we came out with a solution to it, and this is a great portable solution, and it's called our Purity water bottle. And if you'll look at the slide or the part on the right-hand side, and you'll see the black bottle there, and I've got an image of the filter and the way that filter works. And so it doesn't matter if you go to a restaurant, it doesn't matter if you pour bottled water into it, and if you are in an emergency and you have to drink bottled water, you're far better by pouring it into this thing, because the bottle itself is toxic. It has phthalates, and I don't want to go into the specifics of it, but it can cause weight gain, it can cause fertility issues, it can cause a lot of things, and it does cause it. It's not just that it can, it does. So you're best to never, ever drink bottled water again. But in that tap water glass there, you can see all of the things that are typically in water. You pour that into to our water bottle, the black water bottle, and then it basically, there's a straw that's in there, and it pulls it up through those filters, and it cleans it out by 99.9999. Okay? Substantial cleaning there. All right? So I didn't just do a little research on this. I did a lot of research on this, and it's the best filter that is portable that anyone has by far. The next one is the Slenderiiz brand of products, and this is kind of like like a double pack right there that you're looking at, and so you're not blurred vision. There's just a double pack, and what it is, that's the entire system for our Slenderiiz brand, which is our weight loss. And so I want to just talk to you real quick about that. I want to try to prevent you from going after any kind of gimmicky diets. And the reason that I do is look at the pie chart there, and I want you to look at the left-hand top side. Okay, so I'm going to give you the fundamentals. This is it. How much you eat matters. Okay, so if you do not control your calorie intake, it doesn't matter what diet you're on. You got that? So if you burn 2,000 calories in a day, and that would be for men mostly, if you burn 2,000 calories a day, but you eat 3,000 calories a day, it doesn't matter what you eat. Okay, you're going to gain weight. Doesn't matter what you sprinkle over the top of your food, you're still going to gain weight. It doesn't matter what you do. You get that? And so you've got to understand these fundamentals, otherwise you'll end up falling for a gimmick. And so number one is how much you eat matters. Number two, now what you eat matters. I want to take you on a little bit of an evolutionary journey and just give you some logic, okay? So I want you to picture that you are a hunter. And this is, a couple of thousand years ago, let's say, and it's winter time. There's not a whole lot of vegetables. There's certainly not, like for you to eat. There's just not a lot of them. It's winter time. And so what you have to do is you have to hunt. And you kill an animal, and you cook it, and you eat it. Right? And so then when spring breaks, and everything starts to melt, vegetables start to grow, and you get to eat vegetables, in other words, carbohydrates. That's the body's indication right there. Bam, a carbohydrate coming into the body tells the body times are good. Times are good. Let's store that. Okay? So when a carbohydrate comes into the body says, good, let's burn just carbohydrates. Times are good. And then if there's any excess, let's store it, because winter's coming. That's what our bodies are taught to do. All right. So the fall happens, vegetables cut off. You're now on primarily a protein somewhat diet. You can still scrub around. You can get nuts and seeds, and you can do different things like that. But by and large, the heavy carbohydrates, anything sweet, fruits, things like that, they're gone. And so the body says, times are lean, burn fat. Burn what we stored back in the summertime. Okay? That is the way, by and large, our bodies are created. And once you get that in your mind, you can think with it, and you can understand why you might have gained more weight than you wanted to. Your body is doing what it is designed to do. When times are good and you have an excess of sugar or sweet-tasting things, the body says, oh, times are good, just burn that. And you just burn carbohydrates so you don't ever tap into your fat storages. All right, so that's what I mean when I say what you eat matters. Because if you burn 2,000 calories in a day and you eat 2,000 calories of carbohydrates, meaning Oreo cookies, let's say, then you're going to store a lot of those as fat, because the body's saying times are good. Store it up for times that are bad. Right? I'm not saying to go on a nothing but a protein diet. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying that if you eat an excess of carbohydrates, your body, when you have carbohydrates available to you, your body will burn those instead of fat. So if you want to lose, you have to make sure that you're under your caloric burning. And then in the second pie chart, you have to make sure that you are leaner, not totally out of, but leaner on carbohydrates. And then the last one down there is how much you burn. So if normally your body burns 2,000 calories, women it might be 1,800. If that's what your body burns and you want to exercise, and you go out and you do exercise, then while you're exercising and a little bit of time after that, your metabolism has sped up. Okay? That would be the akin to you trying to chase a rabbit down, or you trying to chase a deer down, or something like that, where you're exercising and the body says, you know what, you might be giving us something to eat here, so let's burn some extra here. Okay, so you are, when you're exercising, you're burning more calories. When you do resistance training, such as swimming could be a resistance types of training, when you're lifting weights, when you're doing calisthenics, when you're doing yoga, you're doing resistance kind of training. That builds extra muscle. When you build extra muscle, you are, in essence, getting more calories that you can burn in a day. In other words, you're burning more calories a day. And so if you, let's just say that you were able to gain enough muscle mass, and I'm not talking about some steroid boy, I'm talking about you increase your lean muscle mass through yoga, let's say. And because of that lean mass that you gained, what you got was you got an extra ability to burn fat. So maybe you gained an extra 200 calories a day. So instead of burning 2,000 calories, you're now burning 2,200 a day. Every day now. And so, and if you're still eating 2,000 calories a day, then you're going to be going into a deficit of 200 calories a day. And so where's the deficit come from? The deficit is going to come from your fat. And so what got stored over there is fat, and your body needs some extra. Okay. So what I just showed you are what I call the fat-burning pillars. There's not a doctor in the world that doesn't understand every single one of those. There's not a personal trainer in the world that doesn't understand all those. Those are the things that work, period. Don't fall for any gimmicky diets. So the cabbage soup diet, what is it? That's over there on how much you eat. So if you're just eating soup, you're not eating enough of anything, and so that reduces it down. Whatever diet you ever want to look at, you're basically looking at one of those pillars. All right? Now, there's only one thing about those diets, those three different pie charts, is it takes major discipline. And that's the reason that people who have fit bodies are so revered, because it's not easy. It takes a lot of discipline to do that, because a lot of people don't eat for fuel, they eat for pleasure. And so they say, I don't feel like it, I don't want to, I don't whatever. And so that product over on the right-hand side that you can see the blue label that says Slenderiix, a.k.a. Liquid Discipline. I have been so impressed with that thing. And it's not just something that helps with appetite, but it's also something that helps your body do what it does best. It's based on homeopathy, and homeopathy is basically the study of triggering the body to do what it does naturally. Now, Dr. Marlisa Hertz did a clinical trial on this, and you would think that on the diet that is recommended that you follow, that you would have just lost weight on that alone. And you did. But if you want a 3x result, in other words, you lose 3 times more, then add that Slenderiix, the Accelerate, and a couple other products that I'll show you in just a second. And it 3x'd them. This is in a clinical trial. This is not hocus pocus. This is not us saying so. It's a documented trial. All right? It's tremendous. So back there when I told you as an entrepreneur what you're looking for are products that are easy to sell. And this one's easy to sell. And so is the Puritii water bottle. Okay? All right. One of the future brands, this is one that my wife and I are working on. It's called Healthy Baby Academy. And it's just basically to teach mothers and families how to have healthy babies. When my wife and I got pregnant, we wanted to know what it takes to have a healthy baby, and we were stunned at that we could very easily cause birth defects. We could very easily cause difficulty in learning as a young kid. We could cause allergies. We could cause a lot of things by what we did during pregnancy, before pregnancy, during birth, and then immediately afterwards. And so we documented all that stuff, and we're going to put it into a whole training program for people, and then provide the products and solutions that we discovered, as well as a lot of other ones. And so that's a future brand coming up. I want to shift over to something else real quick here, and that is the compensation. I'm going to switch over and let you look at. I'm just going to do a quick sketch here. So I've found it easiest to describe this by drawing something. Rick, if you can just send me a message on Skype and let me know that you can see this. All right? Okay, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to be talking about a word here in just a minute, and it's going to be called volume. But the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that you understand what volume means. And so what you're looking at is just a circle, but it'll mean something in just a second. All right. So volume in this business represents products moving. And there's three different ways that products can move. You can find customers and you can sell the products at retail. Okay? You can also consume the products yourself. Whoops. You can consume the products. And then you can also, when somebody is going to join the business and they want to try products, kind of like exploring the business kind of a thing, those are, let's just call them packs. And so they're going to try products. So all three of those represent what is, I will use the term volume later. You just got to remember. Now, what's volume? Volume is all of the customers that I get and how much products that they buy from me. It's how much I consume, and it's also all the packs that are sold that by me or by my organization. All right? And so let me now get rid of that so that I can show you just a quick compensation conversation here. Okay, so this person right here is you, most important person in the world to us. And what you're going to do is that you go out and these are C's, okay? We're going to call these customers. Okay, so let's just say you get 4 customers and you retail sell products to them. And then you bring somebody into the business, and that person is also going to get some C's. You're going to teach them how to do that. And then that person is going to bring people in and so forth. Okay? And then you do one over here. So you personally are only going to do this person and this person. Okay? So this is, let's just call it a binary. Bi meaning 2. And so you bring 2 people into the business, and then you help them bring other people in the business. That's basically the way this thing works. And as you build, and remember, the volume word, every single one of these are people, and every one of these people have 3 different ways to move the volume word, right? And so when the combined total, I was going to draw a little one of those things, but it messed up. When you get in both of these about around $30,000 of volume, then you make $2,000 a week in income. Okay? So when your volume out of both sides equals about 30,000, then you're making 2,000 a week. Now, when it's 1,000, you're still making a check. When it's 10,000, you're still making a check. I just wanted to show you that when you optimize that, when you get it as good as you can get it, it's just around $30,000 or so, and you make $2,000 a week. Okay, so then what do? You can retire if you want. But another thing that you can do, let me just grab another color here. If you wanted to come out and, hey, that was supposed to be red. and you want to do that again, you can. Okay? And so you do it again, and you make $2,000 a week there. Now, if you by chance wanted to, you could take this right here. I didn't get it all. You can take this right here, and you can put it wherever you want. If you wanted to put that over here, you could. If you wanted to put it right here, you could. And so that's going to give you another $2,000 a week. And you can do that as many times as you want. $2,000 a week, $2,000 a week, $4,000 a week, $6,000 a week, $8,000 a week, $10,000 a week. It's up to you how many times you want to build that. And you can build it like that, or you can just continue building under it. The obvious advantage is that if you put that organization here, then what that's doing is that is assisting in driving volume up through there. That's the difference. You'll make a tiny bit more money if, oops, I needed all of that, if you put it over here. Well, anyway, you get the idea, if you put it up there. And so there's a whole lot more to the compensation plan, but I found that's about as much as a person can handle. And first shot at it. You don't need to know all the details. What you really need to know is that part right there, is that you retail products, you consume products, and you bring people in on kits where they can try the products, because they have to try them. If they're not trying them, then they'll never be good sellers of the product. And so that's why there's a strong suggestion that you'll want to try products. Okay? And so if you come in and you're consuming products and you're retailing products and you're bringing people in with product packages, and then you teach everyone to do the same, that's the way that $30,000 gets made up. And then you do it again, and you do it again, until you reach the point where you say, I'm making enough money, I'm going to retire. Or you just keep on and say, okay, I'm going to build a whole new leg here, and I'm going to donate every single bit of it to my church. And then you just find organizations that you want to build legs for, and you just donate them to the church, and then they're getting residual income. So however it is that you want to do it is completely up to you. Let me switch back to all right. Rick, am I back on the slides? Okay. The next thing is that the training, and we've created something called the BOSS training. BOSS stands for Business Orientation System. And it starts off with a set of training videos called No ARIIX. Okay, so that's where you're going to get introduced to all of the executives. You've got to, the next one is you got to know your products. And the next one is know your industry, and so there you're going to understand the difference between pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes, and network marketing, so that if somebody is confused out there and they ask you about it, you can explain it to them. You then know how to invite. Inviting would have to do with how do you structure the conversation so that it's professional, it's respectful. You're not looking at the person as a target. You're looking at that person as a human being that has a goal, and so it is a professional way to invite somebody. And then know how to present, know how to generate leads, and then know marketing campaigns. And so basically that right there is the training for you, and then later we will have in there know how to train. Right now, the how to train is just have everybody go through there, through all the training modules. There's little test questions after each one of them for you to test your knowledge, and this is where the person who brings you into the business gets to also check and see how you doing with that. Did everything make sense there, and things like that. Other than that, we also have events like I would recommend anybody on the call make sure that you come out to Vegas this next weekend. We're going to be out there doing training on how to generate leads, and it's coming from a lot of different directions, everything from Facebook leads to offline campaigns, meaning like door hangers and things like that. So you'll learn how to generate leads if you come out this weekend to Vegas. And so when you really summarize everything, you're looking at that you build your own business. How I started this. You build your own business, but utilize the resources of the company. And those resources are, number one, management experience. Number two is the leadership and country expansion. Number three is the product and divisions. I didn't mention this during there, but you can completely go out and build purity. That's what you're building. That's the identity. And that's why you can go to puritii.com. That's why you can go to slenderiiz.com. And these are divisions that are by themselves, if you will. And so if, let's just say a mother wants to build Healthy Baby Academy, she's under the identity of Healthy Baby Academy. All right? It's a own subsidiary of ARIIX, right? And so that way that we never saturate the name ARIIX, we just build by divisions, okay? And then the fourth one there is a strong worldwide compensation plan. That means that if somebody under you somewhere brings in someone international, they can completely be building in that country, and you're drawing resources from that or income from it. And then the last one is real training. And so I want to give you a couple of options here. These are recommendations of coming in. Now, there is, if you were just wanting to build Purity or just wanting to build Slenderiiz, okay, there's ways that you can come in that way. This is sort of the person who wants to come in as like the mall builder, if you will. In other words, want to know everything about all the products so that you would be able to recommend if somebody comes in and they want to build Purity, then you'll have used the water bottle. You'll know it. If somebody in your business, in other words, what we teach people to do is to, first thing when you're talking to a prospect is find out what they need, want, or don't want. And if that person has a passion for purity, but you happen to be building Slenderiix, then you're not really going to be able to help them right there. You know what I'm saying? And so you're going to go, well, I've heard it's really good. Tim says it's good. And so if instead you look at this and say, you know what, I'm a mall builder. I want to know what all of these divisions are about so that I can assist people. And so that's what these packs here. And so this right here is called the business pack that's in front of you. It's $6.99, and if you sell 6 of these, you make your money back. And what everybody wants to know in business is, when do I break even when you sell 6 of these? Now, granted, you're consuming these products, and so in essence, you are breaking even because you're consuming them. They're products that are really, really good. And but just purely on a business level, when you sell 6 of these, you've made $7.50, and then there's the Elite pack, and it's $12.50. And when you sell 4 of those, you make your money back. You make $12.50 there. And so those are the packs. And what I recommend that you do is make your decision. If there's more due diligence that you need to do, then do it. But I really highly recommend that you not sit on the fence on this. My experience before is that those people, sometimes it was just 3 months or so, made the difference of hundreds of thousands a month. That's been my experience. And I'm not joking there, and I'm not hyping that. But it would be wrong for me not to let you know that time does matter. Now, it's more important when you get in that you do actually work than it is when you get in. So given 2 choices, right? So somebody who comes in and doesn't work, somebody comes in tonight and doesn't work, versus somebody who comes in and works. If you're somebody who's coming in and you're working, then you get the full advantage. All right? And then the other side is also true, is that if you wait 6 months and then you come in and you go to work, then you've lost 6 months, and that's a long time, or even 6 weeks. And so I urge you to make your decision. I've always kind of just viewed it this way. It's either A, B, or C. A means absolutely. I don't see everything that I need to know, but I see enough to know that I want to try it. And I'm going to take advantage of a 100% money-back guarantee on these products. And so I'm going to go ahead and go for it. And so if that's you, then you're one of those laser beam eye people, and I know you are. That was me. When I saw it, I was like, geez, I'm in. And I'm not just talking about this. Whatever it is that I've ever evaluated in my life, I don't wait long. I immediately make a decision and I move on it. A B means I want to use your products first. And a C is no thanks, see you later. And do you know what? The person who invited you on this call Your relationship with that person is more important to me than anything else. And so feel good about your decision. Thank the person who invited you on the call because they really, really had your best interest at heart there. And so, Mr. Billings, I so appreciate you in hosting this call and putting it together and guiding me through everything on the webinar. And for everyone who showed up and listened in, I consider it quite a compliment that you would have just spent the hour and 10 minutes with me. And so I very much thank you. And so with that, have a wonderful evening. Make your decision, and I hope to do business with you. Bye-bye.